Lieutenant Governor, is that you? Please confirm.
Yes, it is. Yes, it's me.
Thank you, sir.
Now I'm short.
Yeah, you got it. Oh, no, right? Yeah. Sorry.
Andy, do we have communications with you?
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We'll get started here in 1 minute. So Craig, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Governor.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started and we'll call to order the State of Nevada Executive Branch Audit Committee meeting scheduled for today, July 29, 2025, the time being 1 p.m. And we will start with the roll call.
Governor Lombardo,
Present.
Lieutenant Governor Anthony,
Here.
Secretary Aguilar,
Here.
Treasurer Conine,
Here.
Controller Matthews,
Here.
General Ford,
Here.
Miss Babsky.
Here.
We have a quorum, Governor.
Got to give you a title, you know, instead of Miss Babsky.
No, something really nice. Boss.
Committee member. Committee member Babsky. Craig.
Got that, Governor. Sorry about that.
All right, we'll move to the first opportunity for public comment. The first public comment period is limited to comment on items on the agenda. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under public comment period unless the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an action item. We will limit public comment to 3 minutes. If you wish to call in, that number being 775-321-6111. The ID number being 891-951-935 #. Do we have anybody there in Carson City for public comment?
No, Governor.
Do we have anybody here in Las Vegas? Bashir, you want to make a comment?
Not at this time. So
Okay.
come on.
Anybody else? Anybody online? Or on the phone, I mean? All right, we'll close public comment, move to agenda item number 3, approval of October 29, 2024 meeting minutes. Do we have any questions or concern from any committee member? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve the October 29th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Second.
We have a second. We have a motion for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That sounds like everybody did.
Yes.
All right. Motion passes. We'll move to agenda item number 4, a presentation of audit reports pursuant to NRS 353A.085. These are informational only items, and we'll kick it off with 4A. Mr. Stevenson.
Good afternoon, Governor and members of the committee. For the record, Melissa Gardner, Executive Branch Auditor. Our audit focused on the department's key processes and operations management with the objective of developing recommendations to improve oversight of key processes and operations management. We found the department has reduced oversight in its contracting activities and other key processes, as well as in its personnel and payroll practices. Additionally, the department's flight operations policies allow for practices that do not comply with Federal Aviation Administration rules. We make 3 recommendations for the department to improve oversight of key processes and operation management. First, we recommend the department increase oversight of its contracting activities and other key processes. Our review of department contracting activities and other key processes found an absence of some formal regulations and non-compliance with the Administrative Procedures Act as required by statute. The Board of Directors has adopted resolutions in lieu of formal rulemaking, including the Director Delegated Signature Authority for contracts and agreements. The board is the sole oversight body for most department activities and is exempt from jurisdiction of other state oversight bodies for most contracting and construction-related activities. Board and regulatory oversight of contracting activities and other key processes is crucial to ensure transparency and accountability. Agency activities and processes affecting private rights must be adopted as formal regulations or rules of practice pursuant to the Administrative Procedures Act. The department can increase oversight of contracting activities and other key processes by adopting formal regulations and rules of practice through the public rulemaking process. Second, we recommend the department improve personnel and payroll practices. Our review of departmental personnel and payroll practices revealed issues related to policy violations, timekeeping issues, overtime approvals, and excessive overtime that could cost the state up to $950,000 annually. Employees not covered by a collective bargaining agreement earned overtime on the same day or in the same week as paid leave, and 26% of employees with overtime were responsible for almost 60% of overtime incurred for fiscal year 2023 timesheets tested. The department can improve personnel and payroll practices by updating, creating, and monitoring internal pay policies and procedures. Third, we recommend the department enhance policies and procedures for the Flight Operations Program. The department's existing flight operations policies and procedures do not prohibit aircraft from being engaged for any reason other than for highway fund activities. Existing policies allow for charging passengers and other state agencies for flight services, which is prohibited by the Federal Aviation Administration for the department's flight operations. Additionally, flight manifests do not document flight and passenger trip purpose, which would help ensure passengers are traveling for official state business only, and federal rules for aerial surveying are enforced. Enhancing policies and procedures for the Flight Operations Program will ensure compliance with statute and Federal Aviation Administration regulations. In summary, improving oversight of key processes and operations will increase compliance, oversight, and transparency, reduce personnel costs related to overtime, and could benefit the state up to $950,000 annually. We would like to thank the Nevada Department of Transportation Management and staff for their time and input throughout the audit. Transportation Director Tracy Larkin-Thomason and her staff are available to answer any questions the committee may have.
Chair,
Sure, go ahead.
before we begin, I'd like to ask Mr. Ott, please suggest to us whether we should inquire too much on this issue in view of the fact that we are in litigation related to NDOT on a civil matter, but also a criminal matter. And I'm a little concerned about us asking too many questions or making too many statements that might be utilized during these litigation and court proceedings.
Deputy General Greg Ott, thank you, General, for it. It's a good flag, especially in light of the fact this is an informational only item. The board cannot take any action at all. So I think the prudence would suggest very limited actions or conversations about this because of the litigation that is pending. If there is further need, the members could get those questions answered offline.
And if I may follow up, Mr. Governor, I might suggest, to the extent there are questions or further conversation to be had on this, that we maybe re-agendize this report subsequent to a time when litigation is not pending. I just don't want to jeopardize statements being made here, being categorized as admissions during litigation and things of that sort.
Sounds reasonable. Absolutely. So I guess as a matter of practice, for the record, Governor Lombardo, if you do have some individual questions on this particular audit, bring it to my attention outside of today's hearing. And then I will make the decision whether we rehear this at a later date, or whether we can actually answer the questions offline to the satisfaction of the person asking the question. Does that sound reasonable?
Mr. Ott, does that work?
Deputy Attorney General Greg certainly works. One member communicating with the governor would not be a quorum, so that can absolutely happen outside of an open meeting. There's no concerns with OML, and I think that protects the litigation as well, so it's a good solution.
Okay, and further, for the record, Governor Lombardo, I believe flight operations is outside of the litigation, correct?
It is.
Just a quick question, Ms. Gardner. Did you say $650,000 would be generated off passenger trip purposes? Did I hear that right?
No, that's not correct.
Good. Can you repeat what you told me, or what you said about flight operations and generating of money?
There were no dollars mentioned in the flight operations.
Okay, it was on the previous one, on the payroll
Correct.
practice. Okay, so we have advised flight operations that they cannot charge passengers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there are no further questions, we will close this audit and move to audit 4B.
Good afternoon, Governor and members of the committee. For the record, Jasdeep Bains, Executive Branch Auditor. The Nevada Department of Corrections audit focused on improving overtime management for correctional officers. The department has experienced challenges related to high vacancy rates and overtime expenditures. We make 3 recommendations for corrections to improve overtime management. First, we recommend the department strengthen oversight of personnel and payroll practices to help eliminate confusion about pay parameters, ensure timesheets are accurate and coded correctly, improve supervisory and payroll administrator oversight, reduce overtime, and discourage overtime abuse. Our review found outdated internal pay policies, inaccurate timekeeping, excessive overtime, and improper application of pay types that could cost the state between $4.6 and $18.5 million annually. More than half of all overtime timesheets tested had at least one issue, including policy violations and coding errors. In several cases, employees received overtime in the same week as sick or unpaid leave or structured shifts to bypass scheduling protocols. Additionally, more than 38,000 overtime hours in fiscal year 2024 lacked a valid reason code. The department can strengthen oversight of personnel and payroll practices by updating internal pay policies, training staff on changes, and monitoring improvements. Second, we recommend the department address the root causes of facility-level overtime variability to improve long-standing issues with staffing, shift coverage, and overtime. From fiscal year 2020 to 2024, overtime increased by more than 508,000 hours and $35 million. However, most of this growth was concentrated in just 6 facilities, even as offender populations declined statewide. Analysis showed that facility-level operational demands, and not just changes in offender population, are key drivers of overtime, including vacancies, medical transportation, and hospital coverage. In fiscal year 2024, nearly 94,000 overtime hours were attributed to medical escort duties alone. The department recently contracted with a consultant to conduct a staffing study of facilities and operations intended to provide a comprehensive, objective review of current staffing across the department. The department can address long-standing issues with staffing, shift coverage, and overtime by implementing staffing study recommendations and monitoring measures to ensure successful implementation. Our final recommendation is for the department to continue its recruitment and retention efforts to stabilize staffing levels, improve retention, reduce turnover, and reduce reliance on overtime. Correctional officer vacancies and high turnover have led to a reliance on overtime. The department has enhanced recruitment efforts, secured funding for pay grade increases, and obtained additional benefits through legislative measures in addition to benefits afforded to covered employees through collective bargaining agreements. These efforts contributed to a 34% reduction in vacancies and a 39% improvement in turnover in fiscal year 2024. The department should continue these efforts by maintaining recruitment activities, continued use of third-party recruitment services, and implementing the results of staffing study to support long-term workforce stabilization. Strengthening personnel and payroll practices, addressing facility-level overtime drivers, and continuing recruitment and retention efforts will reduce overtime usage, improve staff retention, and increase efficiency across the department. We would like to thank the Department of Corrections and staff for their time and input throughout the audit. Corrections Director James Arenda and management are available to answer any questions the committee may have.
Do we have any questions from any committee members?
No question.
Governor,
This is Treasurer Conan.
Go ahead, Treasurer.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens, we had chatted a little bit during the pre-brief about the idea of perhaps bringing someone from internal audit into corrections for a period of time to help with some of the administrative work, both in this audit and in other audits. I know there's a few outstanding correction audits and recommendations that haven't yet been implemented, and I expect part of it isn't just the staffing, it's that they don't have the individuals around on the admin side to help do the implementation. So I'm curious if that's something we've ever done. Could we do that? Would it be helpful to the director if we threw maybe some additional resources at the problem?
Thank you for the question, sir. Craig Stevenson for the record. Our statute allows us to take on that type of work. And we do have the committee counsel on hand. He reviewed our statute as well. My understanding is that if the committee requests this, if I agree to it and Department of Corrections agrees to it, then we could take that approach.
Deputy Attorney General Greg.
Thank you. And please
sorry,
go ahead, Mr.
Sorry, Treasurer, just going to clarify. NRS 353A-045, under the duties of the administrator, sub 6, allows him to review each agency that is audited pursuant to subsection 5 and advise those agencies concerning internal accounting, administrative controls, and financial management. So that's the sandbox that we're playing in with regard to what he's able to provide outside of the audit context. I will note that this is an informational item, so the EBAC cannot direct him to do that. But if the tenor of the conversation means that that's something that he needs to do, he's certainly able to take those activities outside of a meeting or specific direction from the committee.
Roger that. Thank you.
So for the record, Governor Lombardo, Treasurer Conan, I had this same discussion with Mr. Stevenson as early as yesterday, and I think we've formulated a possible solution to your concern and question. And what I'll do is convey that to you, and hopefully we come with a consensus on the recommendation. I think we can meet in the middle there somewhere for the benefit of Department of Corrections.
Roger that. Thanks, sir.
Governor, this is Andy. I had a question, if I may.
Go ahead, sir.
And thank you very much for the presentation. With these employees who who are earning excessive overtime, do we have a sense of in how many of these cases these are genuine, bad actors who are intentionally doing this? Maybe some who are, for lack of a better term, gaming the system, as opposed to those who simply are having challenges understanding what the rules are and may simply benefit from the appropriate training. Presumably, it's some combination of those things, but I was wondering if there's been any determination of what exactly is at play there in combination of those things. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Craig Stevenson for the record. I don't think it's bad actors, but I do think that it's employees occasionally gaming the system. Where we saw employees gaming the system would be when they're taking a certain type of leave, say on a Monday, you take 4 hours of leave, and then they work 40 or more hours after that. And it might look or have the optics of they're kind of gaming the system by working that overtime in the same week that they have leave. I would say that one of the solutions to this problem is the staffing study that we mentioned in recommendation number 2. I was able to get a draft copy of that staffing study, and I noted that it specifically addresses issues with overtime, shift coverage, which includes the shift relief factor and other staffing issues. So we really envision that staffing study, once NDOC presents it to the legislature, to the governor, and this committee, we anticipate that will resolve some of those issues where employees are gaming the system.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up. So if I understand you correctly, that staffing study is going to include some best practices for how to reduce some of these overtime expenditures.
Yes, sir, it will.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. For the record, Governor Lombardo, is Director Zarenda in the audience? Can you come forward?
Yes, sir, he's headed to the dais.
Yeah, this is James Arenda, Director for the Corrections Department.
Hey, James, there's 2 things mentioned in the audit. One was coding of the payroll system and the faults that occur on a regular basis out of NDOC. And in my constant briefings from the Core NG folks, they said these are ongoing problems. So these problems were identified way before the audit results. Have we done anything proactive to try to fix that particular issue?
Yeah, this is James Arenda again. So yes, there's 2 parts to this, and one of them is over the years, the coding was adjusted, codes were added that were probably even only understood in the corrections field. We eliminated a lot of these, probably 2/3 of the codes, to narrow the list down so that it's easier to understand and more broad on the reasons for the overtime. But also a big problem of it is the supervisors in charge of monitoring the schedules needed to be trained in what these codes are, how do you code, what's appropriate for what type of post for overtime. So we implemented the new codes already, and we just started implementing training for the sergeants who are actually doing the schedules on how to do coding, what the coding means, how to put it in place, what's appropriate, what's not. And a lot of that's going to monitor those that have, what was just brought up, that had sick leave or leave time that also did overtime, because the codes won't match, and it'll set out an alert to the supervisor that this might be inappropriate use of overtime if that person had a leave day the day before or whenever it was. I think it'll all correct itself once we complete all this recommendations.
Okay. And the other question was on medical transport. So I believe it was probably 3 BOEs ago. That situation was presented to BOE as a reason for a significant amount of overtime. And now it's identified in the audit. What has taken place to fix that particular issue between now and then?
So James Arenda again. So part of it was kind of helped. The legislature approved us 47 positions to help with the transportation and the guarding. However, that's only a percentage of what we actually use in overtime. There's 3 pieces of overtime that we use for medical. One of them is the actual hospital guarding at the outside hospitals when someone's admitted. Then you have the transportation to local medical appointments. And then you have emergency transportations for hospital trips. All that equated to, we were only authorized and budgeted for 20 positions to cover all that. We did a study of just 6 months and came out with 67.7 officers that were involved in just the hospital transportation piece, but not the guarding and everything else. So the numbers are a lot larger than that. This will help those additional 47 positions that were given to us from the legislature this session. Will reduce it, but it will not correct it. It will still not be able to cover the entire hospital guarding, hospital trips, and medical trips that we have, and that would be 100% overtime when it has to be covered.
Do you recall the reasoning behind the legislative decision not to fund all the positions?
James Renda, no, sir. I went over in my testimony about these 66.7 officers that we were using every single day in overtime for that role. They came up with the number of 47. We didn't have any input on what we really needed. It was just, that's all the conversation that happened in the testimony. And it came back after the testimony that they were giving us the 47 positions for that piece.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from any other committee members? All right. Is that a complete presentation of 4B, Mr. Stevenson?
Yes, Governor.
Okay, we'll move on to 4C.
Good afternoon, Governor. Good afternoon, committee members. Executive Branch Auditor Marty Schaefer for the record. The audit focused on improving management of nutrition programs. We've made 2 recommendations. First, we recommend the department assess nutrition program operations for compliance with updated requirements and alignment with legislative intent. A comprehensive review of the statutory provisions and federal regulations governing nutrition programs has been necessary since program authority was transferred to the department in 2013. During the transfer, the department acknowledged NRS may be unclear and out of date. Certain accounts created in NRS to manage program funds were not established in practice, and an inactive state nutrition program created in 1995 may have been rendered obsolete by the creation of the Home Feeds Nevada program in 2023. Similarly, federal regulations require a dedicated account to track shipping fee receipts, which has not been established in practice, while records of food distribution costs required by federal regulations are not maintained. Assessing nutrition program operations for compliance will ensure the department maintains federal support while also meeting the department's own strategic goal to modernize statutory and regulatory framework through a review and update of NRS and NAC. Our second recommendation is to recalculate shipping fees and submit for USDA approval. The department charges schools either $1.50 or $2.50 per case of food delivered for the USDA Foods in Schools program, depending on the method of delivery. The USDA allows state distributing agencies to charge this fee specifically to recover food distribution costs. However, the department has no record of how these rates were determined. Over $400,000 has accumulated from charging the fees since fiscal year 2019, the year the department implemented a dedicated job code to track shipping fee transactions. The accumulation of these funds indicates the fees charged do not properly reflect the actual costs incurred to distribute food. Additionally, anomalies in state accounting system records indicate the fees have not been properly recorded. Recalculating the shipping fees to reflect the actual cost of food distribution activities will ensure an appropriate fee is charged and will align the process with federal requirements. We would like to thank the Department of Agriculture management and staff for their time and input throughout the audit. Director J.J. Goycochea and his staff are available to answer any questions the committee may have.
Governor, you're muted.
All right, do we have any committee member questions? No.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Dina Babsky for the record. So these extra fees that now show they have accumulated, but I see some years there's actually decreases. So what are some of the items that these funds are spent on?
I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't catch the very last part of that question.
I see that some of the years there's a decrease in the fund balance. So what would cause that? What are these funds spent on?
So those decreases would be predominantly allocations. And so what the department can do is allocate administrative costs to certain programs. So like, let's say you have a program coordinator that works on distributing these cases to schools. You could allocate a portion of that position's cost. And so in some years, the allocation might be higher, and in some years, it might be lower. It also depends on the shipping activity that's going on in any given year, because the more you ship, the more you're going to be able to spread administrative costs across multiple different cases. And so you do see the fluctuation. It's on page 10 of that audit report. In some years, they had what I would call a surplus. In other years, they did not, and they had, you might call it a deficit. And so that's why it's so important that when they reevaluate these shipping fees, they're really trying to hit the nail on the head and get it as accurate as possible, while also realizing that some years you are going to have a deficit, so you don't want to undercharge, because then you're hitting the state general fund. And so that's why there can be some fluctuations.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is Director Goycochea there?
Yes, Governor, Director's here, and he
Can
is
you have him
heading.
come forward, please?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Governor, Director Goycochea.
Hey, JJ, on the two recommendation, one being assess nutrition program operations for compliance with updated requirements and alignment with legislative intent. And the second being recalculate shipping fees and submit for USDA approval. Were you aware of these two issues prior to the audit?
Director Goycochea, for the record. So we were aware that we were operating under, I guess we would call, aged statutes and regulations, but as the federal programs continued to change, how we were going to exactly align those with the federal programs was going to be a challenge. So we have agreed to go back and look at that. Obviously, we expect the USDA to continue to make changes in the next couple of years. So it's going to be difficult for us to go and ask for a legislative fix in 2 years, not knowing what the USDA may do literally the day after we get that legislative fix. So we're trying to operate as broadly as we can, sir, to remain flexible with the USDA requirements.
Okay, yeah, that's why I'm asking, because it says your time frame for fix is July of 26. And it seems like that would be excessive amount of time, so.
Yes, sir, Director Goycochea, for the record. So we're going to look at that by 26 and have some recommendations going forward. And obviously, we will work closely with our other executive level officers, including yourself, about how we want to go forward with that. And by 26, hopefully, we'll have a clearer picture of what the USDA programs are going to look like as well.
Thank you. Any other questions from any committee members? All right, we will close agenda item number 4. Thank you, everybody, for the presentations. And we'll move to agenda item number 5, presentation of audit 6-month follow-up status reports pursuant to NRS 3528.090. Reminder, it's an informational only item, and we'll kick it off with 5A.
Good afternoon, Governor and committee members. Beatrice Mena Ortiz, Audit Manager for the record. This is the 6-month follow-up to our Department of Administration, Division of Human Resource Management, Collective Bargaining Agreements Audit, DIA Report Number 2501, which focused on improving oversight and tracking of collective bargaining agreement special pay and benefits to ensure consistency and compliance. Recommendation 1 to standardize and clarify CBA language has been partially implemented. DHRM reported a comprehensive review aimed at streamlining agreement language was conducted. However, standardization remains limited due to the requirement that all contract language must be mutually agreed upon with labor organizations. Review of the CBAs for the 2025-2027 biennium revealed commonly referenced provisions, such as NACs, were not consistently standardized across CBAs. Recommendation 2, to develop a database to track and monitor CBA pay and benefit provisions in covered positions, has been partially implemented. DHRM reported they are working with the Office of Project Management to evaluate system capabilities and identify opportunities for process improvement. Additionally, Advantage 4 is being tailored to enable the system to link employee positions with their corresponding bargaining unit. Recommendation 3, to provide guidance and tools to track and monitor CBAs prior to implementation, has been partially implemented. In June 2025, the Labor Relations Unit began conducting training sessions to provide a detailed review of newly negotiated CBAs. On average, 2 training sessions are conducted each day, both in person and virtually, for all departments and the Nevada System of Higher Education. We thank the Division of Human Resource Management for their assistance in preparing our report. Administrator Bashira Washington and her staff are available for any questions the committee may have.
We have any questions? Director Washington, from any committee members? No.
I should come up with something.
Actually, I do have a question for the record, Governor Barlow. Bashira, I understand that, so you have 3 recommendations. Are they comprehensive enough, the recommendations, for you to find some solutions to what you've identified in your recent history of collective bargaining?
Bashir Washington for the record. Yes, as it pertains to the standardization of the CBAs, one thing that we did try to ensure was that the articles, though across the board of the many CBAs are different, that they remain consistent in each CBA. So Article 1 will always be a preamble. So we really worked hard to try to do that. We did get pushback a lot for trying to standardize those things, but where we could, we absolutely did. So my team was great in ensuring that they look as similar as they can be. In regards to 2, the fact that we will be able to identify certain benefits, identify the employees, the job titles in the new Advantage Force system is going to help us tremendously. It's going to help the departments as well in identifying which employees fall under which CBA, which job type.
So does the Advantage Force system have the ability to do that?
Yes, sir.
Because I was made aware here recently from Jack that they're still having implementation and tracking problems because of the CBAs.
Bashir Washington, as far as I'm aware, we should be able to identify which jobs by the title belongs to which CBAs, and then of course have any associated benefits attached to it.
Is there a coding or an implementation issue? So when the legislative process makes the decisions on the approval of the CBAs and the implementation, is there an issue there between that time, a timely implementation?
Bashir Washington, there shouldn't be with the new system.
Okay. Do you know how far away we are from full implementation?
We go live with our HR system in October.
Okay,
And then we start our next phase, which is employee self-service and manager self-service, which will be a tremendous help as well.
good. Did we give you help through the legislative process? Thank you. Any other questions? Nope. All right, thank you. We'll move on to item 5B.
Thank you, Governor. Marty Schaefer for the record. This is the 6-month follow-up to our audit of the Nevada Department of Veteran Services, DIA Report 25-02. The audit focused on improving operations of the Southern Nevada State Veterans Home. 6 recommendations resulted from the audit. I'm pleased to report the department has made progress implementing the recommendations. 4 recommendations are fully implemented, while the other 2 are partially implemented. Recommendation 1, to submit applicable past due debts to the State Controller for collections, is fully implemented. The department submitted 75 accounts with a cumulative total of over $1 million past due to the State Controller's office in May of 2025. Recommendation 3, to record accounts receivable in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, is partially implemented. Upon communicating the limitations of the South Home accounting software to the Controller's office, the Controller's office recognized that the software is standard within the nursing home industry and that flexibility should be provided to continue recording credits to the receivables balance. The department received an exemption to the Controller's policy that generally accepted accounting principles are followed when recording receivables. Although the exemption allows the department to continue recording credits to receivables, an accurate receivables balance must still be reported at fiscal year end. Full implementation of this recommendation is dependent upon confirmation the department has a process in place to do so. Recommendation 4, to revise the admission application to include Medicaid information, is fully implemented. An assortment of informative Medicaid-related documents were added to the admission application packet, including an actual cost of care acknowledgement form that details the applicant's financial responsibilities, and a frequently asked questions section that provides answers to common concerns regarding Medicaid coverage. Recommendation 5, to submit Medicaid application at start of admission process and train staff on updated admission processes, is partially implemented. The department increased the presence of the on-site Medicaid representative by 1 additional day per week to better address Medicaid concerns among both staff and residents. The department is also working to reclassify the admissions team lead, which has been unconventionally filled by a registered nurse. Full implementation is dependent upon confirmation the department has started submitting Medicaid applications at the start of the admission process for those that qualify after receiving the necessary information from the applicant's physician. Recommendation 2, to pursue an updated MOU with the State Controller's office, is fully implemented. The Controller's office informed the department that waivers of individual NRS provisions will be issued in lieu of a broad MOU. The department received a waiver allowing it to submit bad debt after 120 days instead of the 60 days afforded by statute. A waiver recognizing the specific budget account in which any recovered debts will be deposited was also provided. Recommendation 6, to seek a BDR to join the nurse licensure compact, is fully implemented. Before the department could act in response to the recommendation, a BDR to join the compact was introduced by the Patient Protection Commission in advance of the 2025 legislative session. The BDR received a bill that did not advance out of committee, but its introduction achieved the intent of recommending the department seek a BDR. We would like to thank the Department of Veteran Services for their assistance in preparing our report. Department management is available for any questions the committee may have.
Governor, may I speak briefly?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Deputy Attorney General Greg Ott, I was just going to note that the existence of potential litigation involved in this item as well. So I would, again, this is an informational item, and perhaps the prior procedure where members go through you to get any questions answered in lieu of having this in a formal setting would be prudent.
All right. With that being said, do any committee members have any questions outside of the identified litigation issues? I think the only thing that would be outside of that is the MOU with the comptroller. Is that correct?
That's not.
I believe that's correct.
Mr. Matthews, are you aware of any additional concerns?
No, sir. I went through the materials very thoroughly, and we're satisfied with the direction things are heading. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so bear with me. That completes item 5, correct, Mr. Stevenson?
Yes, Governor.
All right, we'll close item 5, move to item 6, approval of the annual audit plan pursuant to NRS 353A.038.
Thank you, Governor. Craig Stevenson for the record. Tab 6 is the Division of Internal Audit's fiscal year 2026 annual audit plan, which is being presented for committee approval pursuant to statute. All audits on this plan were previously approved by the committee. We started pre-audit work on the 3 audits highlighted in green, and we intend to open these audits in August. There are 4 audits highlighted in blue on the bottom half of the page. We plan to open these audits before the next committee meeting unless instructed otherwise. I am requesting the committee's approval of the annual audit plan as presented. I'm happy to answer any questions the committee may have.
Do we have any questions of any committee members?
No questions. Motion to approve.
Second.
Well, before I entertain the motion, I wanted the Secretary of State to be aware that your requested audit is beginning in August.
Yes. The director and I spoke.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate
All
it.
right. I'll once again entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion for approval. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
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 All right, sounded like everybody. Motion passes. And we'll move on to agenda item number 7, committee member comments. Do we have any individual comments from any committee members?
Committee member.
No comments. Thank you.
All right, we'll close item 7, move to item 8, second opportunity for public comment. Do we have any public comment there in Carson City?
No, Governor.
Do we have any public comment here in Las Vegas? Amber, you got any comment? Welcome.
Welcome to Amber.
Anybody on the phone?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll close public comment and move for adjournment.
We'll move.
We have a motion for adjournment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your day.
Thank you, Governor.